Hello, everyone. It is now 12 p.m. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Franco, and I'm pleased to be your host for today's session on our housing and residence team as part of Ryerson's virtual open house, which is taking place this week, November 9th to the 13th, and also next week, November 16th to the 20th. There are many sessions taking place across these 2 weeks, and I encourage you to visit our website and register for any other sessions that may interest you. Now, to begin, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that Ryerson's campus stands on today, the place where we work and learn. Ryerson and Toronto are in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. Ryerson has shifted to an essential services model to help prevent the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. We have put together a series of these virtual sessions in order to share information and connect with you. If you haven't had a chance, please answer the poll question so you can let us know kind of who are you and when are you interested in coming and joining us here at Ryerson. Ryerson is currently working diligently to provide students with fulsome experiences while maintaining the health and safety of our community. Now, just in case this is your first time using the Zoom platform, couple tips I want to share with you so you can get the most of your experience with us today. We encourage you to ask questions throughout this entire session. We have many staff members on the back end ready to answer your questions. To do so, please hover over the bottom of the Zoom window where you will find the Q&A pod. Click on that and a dialog box should open, and that is where you can enter your question. Now, if you're experiencing any audio or video issues, for example, maybe you can't hear me very well, also, please flag it to us in the Q&A and one of our staff members will be able to assist you with troubleshooting. Number three, you may arrange your screen however you see fit. If you want to make the speaker screen bigger or the presentation screen bigger, it's all up to you. Whatever you do on your screen will not affect the viewing experience of others. And finally, this presentation, we have enabled closed captioning to ensure accessibility. So if you do require closed captioning, please also select that option at the bottom of the Zoom window. And also note that all recordings of our virtual open house sessions will be available on our Ryerson at Home website later on. So right now, I would like to toss it over to our residence team, and I'd like to introduce to you Ella, and she will be your host for the rest of the session.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ella. Welcome to the 2020 Virtual Open House. I'm in my first year, so I just recently joined the Housing and Residence team, but I can tell you that Housing and Residence Life is really excited to provide you all with a digital overview of the benefits offered to students that live on campus. So just so you guys know, the presentation is about 30 minutes in length, and it's going to be followed by a 30-minute question and answer period. But feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation using the chat box. So as I said, my name is Ella, and I'll be starting off our presentation today, followed by our other two awesome presenters, Alice and Emma, which you'll hear from a little bit later on. So we're going to start with a poll question here. There are many reasons why students consider living on campus. Out of the following options, which is the most important to you? So our options here are location, meeting new people, academic support, or convenience and reassurance. So I think all of these are important, but you can just pick which one is the most important to you. I know for me, when I moved, it was definitely location. I love the city. There's always something going on. It's definitely a big change, especially depending on where you're coming from. But living in Toronto is a really cool experience that not a lot of other universities can give you that same downtown city experience. So we'll just give our poll a few more seconds here, see what you guys put in. So it looks like convenience and reassurance is winning. Okay, so we'll publish the results of our poll here so you guys can see. So it looks like convenience and reassurance was our top answer, which is really great, which you definitely will have living in residence. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Okay. Okay, so as you can see here, there's a number of reasons why you would want to live in residence, and we're going to talk about some of the main ones, our favorite ones. So the first one is personal support. So when you live in residence, you will have a residence advisor or an RA, which is an upper year student, and they're there to support you in every facet of your residence life experience. So as a trained student leader who's supervised by professional staff, your RA lives on your floor and works to build community with you and your peers. They'll help introduce you to other students in your community who you may quickly become friends with and ensure that you're living in a space that cultivates belonging and inclusion. So the other great thing about RAs is that they host weekly floor meetings, which is an opportunity for you to meet and interact with your floor on a regular basis. The meetings also keep you up to date with important dates, events, and things happening in your community. Your RA is a terrific resource for you to help you support your transition to your new day-to-day life at university. So the next thing we're going to talk about is safety and security. And we understand that we are in a downtown city location, and that can make people quite nervous, especially if you're from a small town, another province, or even another country. But in residence, safety is definitely a top priority of Ryerson. And some ways that they work to keep you safe is by having a resident service desk. So all of the buildings have a resident service desk, which are equipped with the resident service desk staff, which is someone sitting there 24/7, so they can help you out with anything you need. Packages in mail, getting information, and guest sign-in, which is a really great resource to have right in your building. And the other thing is campus security. So Ryerson has a walk safe program, which essentially means that a campus security officer will meet you anywhere on campus and escort you to anywhere else on campus or to the Dundas subway station, which is a really great thing to have. And another cool thing is that the school offers training programs such as first aid, CPR, and self-defense, so you can look out for those. So next, we're going to talk about all gender housing. So at Ryerson, we respect a person's right to choose whether or not to disclose their gender identity, which means that residents' room styles are not gender specific, so you may be placed in a room with someone of a different gender. But that being said, if you wish for the gender of your roommate to match your own, you can definitely let us know on the application form just by identifying your gender and selecting that you'd like to be placed with someone of the same. The vast majority of our bedrooms are single occupancy, so most students don't have a roommate in their bedroom. But all floors in our residence buildings are mixed in gender, which is something to keep in mind. So next, we're going to talk about academic support, which is good because a lot of you guys said you were looking for convenience and reassurance, so this is good. Another great resource is your academic link, or an AL for short. And an AL is a student leader who are in the same faculty as you, and sometimes they're even in the same program. And as an upper year student, they've already been through first year and they can help you with your first year academic transition, because I know it can be a lot different than high school. So if you're nervous about it, your AL is definitely there to help you out. So they are able to develop programs and they hold office hours that are designed to help with the learning in your faculty. They're knowledgeable about course enrollment, specific program deadlines, and advice on using campus resources to make the most of your academics at Ryerson. Whether it's study tips, opportunities, or navigating your faculty, you're definitely going to want to connect with your AL. So next, we're going to talk about living learning communities. The experience in each of the living learning communities is driven by the interests of the residents. Through communities and programs, we support the transition of students to university academics and toward independent living. Students can apply to live in a learning living community as part of their residence application through Easy Res, which are reviewed by the residence life facilitators. So a living learning community, or an LLC for short, are specialized zones that cluster students together based on personal or academic interests to give them the opportunity to live and work together while exploring the theme of the specific LLC. LLCs center on social and educational activities facilitated by the residence life student leaders, as well as opportunities to connect to the community on campus and beyond. So there are 5 LLCs designed to encourage student connection by bringing them together based on their interest in academic pursuits. So as you can see on our thing here, our 5 are leadership, healthy living, community services, fashion, and entrepreneurship and innovation. So as I said, when you fill out your Easy Res application, you can select if you would like to live in one of these. So the last thing we're going to talk about is community. So this may be your first time away from home, living in a new city, transitioning to a new school, and you really don't know anyone. But the good news is that you're not alone. Most of the students in residence are in the same situation. This means that you're all looking to make new connections and friends and start building your new support networks here on campus. There are plenty of opportunities to get involved in the community, no matter what interest you have or the program that you're enrolled in. You'll be living on a floor with approximately 20 to 50 other students, so there's lots of opportunities to make new friends. Residence gives you the opportunity to connect with new people. By going to class, you're going to meet new students in your program, and in residence, you'll get to meet students in other programs and from a variety of different places in and outside of Canada, no matter what buildings you live in. So that is it for me, but I'm going to hand it off to Emma to talk to you guys about the next thing on our presentation.
Hey everyone, I'm Emma, and I'm going to be giving you an overview of all the different room styles that we have to offer here in residence. To start, I'm going to start with a little poll question. How many beds do you guys think are available in total across all of Ryerson's on-campus residences? I was a bit surprised when I learned this number. I always thought it was like a little bit more than it actually is, because I've met so many people in residence that I just always assumed that there's more beds, but yeah. And we also have a lot more beds than we've had in the past recently with the opening of our Daphne Cockwell Complex building. So if you're applying for residence, there's a lot more spaces to be filled. I'm just going to give it a couple more seconds to give you guys time to reply. I'm actually wearing the same shirt as the girls in the picture there because we were all there for move-in day. I just thought that was a fun little fact. Whenever the poll's ready to be finished. So it looks like you guys thought there was about 1,430. The answer is actually there's 1,144 beds in Ryerson residence. I think the 1,100 people are the closest, but I can definitely understand other answers. So first going to go to the next slide. So this is just a really brief overview of all the different residence buildings. We have 3 different buildings here on Ryerson campus. We have Pitman Hall, or as we colloquially call it, PIT. We have the International Living and Learning Center, or ILC, and the Daphne Cockwell Complex, or DCC, which is our newest residence building that opened in fall of 2019. So there are a variety of different numbers of beds in each of the buildings. In the Daphne Cockwell Complex, there are 332. In ILC, there are 256, and in PIT, there are 576. For the room style varieties, Pitman has the most with 4, whereas ILC and Daphne Cockwell Complex have 2 each. And in each of the buildings, there's all gender identities as well. In all the buildings, there is a mandatory meal plan that you can access for food. And all the buildings also include laundry facilities for you to do your laundry. There's kitchens for you to access, whether it be within your apartment space or on your common room. And as well, there are floor common rooms for floor meetings, study spaces, and spaces to hang out in outside of your room as well, where you can interact with your floormates and really build a community. If we can move to the next slide, please. So first, I'm going to be talking to you about the Daphne Cockwell Complex, which is our newest residence building on campus. It opened in fall 2019. I actually lived there when it first opened. And the views are really good from this building as well, no matter where you live, because it's a mixed-use building. So the bottom floors of the building are academic and administrative spaces, whereas the residence tower is on the top of the building. So literally, no matter what floor you live on, you're going to have an amazing view of Toronto in that building. And as you can see on the screen here, there are 2 apartment styles. So there's a 2-bedroom apartment, which is a barrier-free space. So it's fully wheelchair accessible for anyone who is living in that space. And it also comes with a kitchen with an oven and a fridge. And there's furniture in there as well with comfy chairs. There's a table and chairs. You also have a bathroom that you share with your other apartment mate. And then in the 4-bedroom apartment, you will have 3 roommates essentially. Each of you have your own individual personal room, but you will share your apartment space with 3 other people. And while that space doesn't have a full kitchen, it does have a snack making space. and you have access to the 8th floor common space kitchen on the 8th floor. And there's also 2 bathrooms within that 4-bedroom apartment complex. So that's 2 bathrooms that you share with your 3 roommates. If I can move to the next slide. Thank you. So this is what it looks like from the outside. It's a very pretty building. And as you can see, you can kind of see at the bottom there where all the administrative spaces are. And then on the top floor, you can see that's the residence tower. When you come into the building, there is an set of elevators that you take to get to the 8th floor, which is where you then sign in with the residence service desk. And what's really convenient about this building is that because it's a shared space with academic spaces and classrooms, is in the winter time. If you have a class in that building, you don't even have to leave your building to get to class, which I always thought was really, really cool. If we could just move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So this is more of an in-depth view of what the different spaces look like. So as you can see on the far left, that's what the kitchen on the 8th floor common space looks like. And this is generally an overview of the 8th floor. So the image of all the rows of desks, that's what the 8th floor common space looks like. So there's a lot of space to study, hang out with friends. I know that space last year was used for a lot of like residence-wide events where we screened movies from the projector. But yeah, so there's 2 ovens for you to cook on. That's like communal to the whole building. And as well, you can see the front desk there. As it was mentioned before, like that's where you go to get your mail. That's where you go to sign into the building. That's where you go to sign in guests and all that fun stuff. If we could go to the next slide, thank you. Also within the Daphne Cockwell Complex, so you have your apartment common space, but then you also have a floor common space as well. And this comes with a TV. It comes with like some comfortable seating. It comes with a table and chairs, all that fun stuff. And it's just somewhere where within your community, like your floor community, which spans 2 floors in Daphne Cockwell, it's just a place where you can go to hang out with people on your floor. If you're interested in meeting new people that aren't necessarily your roommates, you can go hang out in your common room and usually someone will come by. But yeah, and then you can also see, so the laundry facilities in Daphne Cockwell are different from the other 2 buildings, and I'll go into more of what the other 2 buildings look like. But in Daphne Cockwell, you have a communal laundry space for the entire building on the 8th floor, and there's a lot of laundry machines, and yeah, I never had any issues with it because there's so many laundry machines within that laundry room. There's almost always going to be a spare laundry machine for you to do your laundry in. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is what the 4-bedroom apartments look like. As you can see, there is a fridge, there's a counter space with a lot of storage for you to hold all of your dishes, your food, anything you want to store in the kitchen common space. As well, it comes with a fridge for you and your roommates to share as well. Next slide, please. So this is a bit of what the bedroom looks like. So you come with a wardrobe to hold all your clothes in. And what's really great about Ryerson residence is that because it comes with furniture, you don't have to lug in a lot of clunky furniture on move-in day. So it's all there for you. You get a desk, you get the bed. There's a dresser that goes underneath your bed in the 4-bedroom apartments. And that just gives you some extra storage as well. It comes with the wardrobe that you can see there to hang all your stuff, as well as some shelves to like show off some plants and stuff like that. That's what I did with the space, at least. Next slide, please. This is a little bit of a closer look of what the washrooms look like. So you can kind of see it there. On the far right, that's what the shower in the 2-bedroom apartment looks like. And another cool thing about Daphne Cockwell is that they, as part of their environmental initiatives on campus, they use gray water for the toilets. So that's just an extra little fun tidbit. Next slide, please. Yeah, and this is just another look of what the bedrooms look like. And there's some of our awesome residents and Housing Life team staff on move-in day. And that's actually something else. They're standing in front of study spaces that you can book on the 8th floor of the Daphne Cockwell Complex. So if you want a space that's like quiet, but and like is isolated and you can study, you can book those spaces on the Daphne Cockwell Complex 8th floor to go study with your classmates as well. Thank you. Yeah, so next I'm going to talk about the International Living Learning Center. This is actually where I live right now, so I'm actually here. But there are two different room styles that are in the Ilk building. There's the double rooms and there's a single room. There's limited double rooms, so if you're really interested in sharing your room with someone, I'd suggest applying for that. But the more common space is the single room. And something really cool about the single rooms in Ilk is they come with a queen size bed, which is something that I personally really loved about the building. Yeah, so some just important things to note about the International Living Learning Center. Despite the name, the building is available to all students. There is some confusion around it because it's called the International Living and Learning Center. However, it's open to domestic students, and international students can live in any of the buildings. They're not limited to this building. Yeah. And another really cool thing about Ilk is that you have the benefit of over the winter break, if you want to stay in residence over that period, Ilk is going to be open over the mid-year break. So if you live in Ilk, you can apply to stay there, as well as if you live in other buildings, you can apply to stay in Ilk over the mid-year break if you're interested in staying in Ryerson residence over the break. And there are just over 250 students that live in the Ilk residence building on all of the 11th floors, which you can see kind of here. But yeah, and then we have two entrances on Mutual and Jarvis Streets. Both of them the building is locked unless you have your key card, so it's safe, obviously. And yeah, next slide, please. So this is more of an in-depth look of what the actual room looks like. As you can see, this person here decorated the wall with some collages, but you have access to a dresser. You have a built-in wardrobe on the wall with a giant mirror. You also have, well, the bed, and you have the desk as well. And the desk is really like expansive. It's something that I personally love about Ilk is how big the desk is, because I can stretch all of my stuff across the space. Yeah, and then on the other side, you can see that that's a view of what the dorms look like from the hallway. Yeah, next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, another great thing about Ilk is that it houses one of the two dining halls that Ryerson has within residence. So when you sign up for your meal plan, part of that is that you go get your food from the dining hall, and in the Ilk and in Pitman is where the dining halls are located. So that's kind of convenient to be able to just go downstairs and get your food. Yeah, and then you can also see the resident service desk there as well, where our lovely resident service desk agents work and sign you in and give you your mail and all that fun stuff. Next slide, please. Yeah, so within DCC, you have the communal 8th floor laundry space. However, in Ilk, each floor has one washer and one dryer on your floor. That doesn't mean you're necessarily limited to just using your floor laundry space, but it is there for you to use if you want to, and you just swipe your one card with money that's loaded on to your one card at the start of the year. Another great thing about Ilk is that although you have your private room with a bathroom to yourself, unless you live in the paired space where you share that bathroom with another person, you don't have a common space within your room. However, there's a common space on each floor that has a full kitchen, it has couches, it has a TV, it has tables and chairs to go hang out on, and all that fun stuff. And that's just a really great way to kind of hang out with your floor in that space. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're at the Pitman Hall. Pitman Hall is the second largest building that we have on campus, and it also has the most variety of spaces with 4 different room styles. So you have the double room with a shared hallway washroom. So The washroom is shared with approximately 4 to 5 students. There's a single room with a shared hallway washroom, and the washroom is shared with approximately 4 to 5 students. You also have the apartment style room where you have your own private bedroom, but you share a lounge, a kitchen, and a washroom with 3 or 4 other students. And there's also the paired room style where you have your your own bedroom, and you share a small lounge and a washroom with 1 other student. Next, please. So this is what it looks like from the outside. And another really great thing about Pitman is that right outside of Pitman Hall, there is the Pitman Quad, which is a really great place that I know that we've been using recently as a hangout space for if you want to meet someone on campus, if you just want to hang out outside, take some cute pictures for Instagram. The Pitman Quad is a really great place to do that. Next slide, please. Yes, so as I mentioned before, Pitman and Ilk both have the dining hall spaces within their buildings. So as you can see on the right side of the screen there is the dining hall in Pitman on the first floor. As well, there is our lovely service desk agents. And there's also within Pitman, there is the second floor of the building, which has more recreational spaces. So a lot of like residence council events are held on the second floor of the building. And on the bottom left of the screen, you can see one of the common spaces within Pitman. It has couches, tables. They also have a kitchen set within there as well. Next slide, please. So this is more of what the room styles look like. I believe this is the apartment style room. So you have your whole table, kitchen set, and within the bedroom, you have the bed, you have a dresser, you have a desk. You also have quite a large closet in Pitman as well, and some shelving units. Next slide, please. Thank you. And this is more of another look of what the bedroom spaces look like. As you can see on the bottom right corner, that's what the kitchen space looks like in an apartment style room. So you get an oven, you get a lot of counter space. Once again, lots of storage to store all of your pots and pans, dishes, all of that fun stuff. And that's kind of a look of what the communal washroom space looks like on the top left. So yeah, that's a space that you would share with people on your floor if you live in the double room or the single room style. And these are just more pictures of how people decorated their rooms. As you can see, some people in the shared rooms will stack their dressers to give them more space, which is a really fun and innovative way to decorate your room and decorate your space. But yeah, there's a lot of different variety within Pitman for you to take advantage of. Next slide, please. Thank you. So if you're interested in a more in-depth look of all the different residence buildings, we do have tour videos on our website, www.ryerson.ca/housing, if you want to look for a more in-depth view of all the different residence buildings. You can also book a tour with us to get a guided virtual tour of the different spaces. But yeah, thank you so much. And I'd like to pass this off to Alice to give the next part of the speech. Thank you.
Hi. Sorry, give me 1 second. My computer. Okay. So the next poll would be based on information that you've received. Which residence are you most excited to stay at or learn more information about? So the poll should be launching right now. No matter what the responses are, all the buildings are fantastic in their own way, no matter what building you choose. I'll give it a few more minutes. A lot of you guys seem to be picking DCC. All right. As you guys can see, DCC 1. So I'm just going to move on to kind of talking more about all of the residence buildings. So next slide, please. Thank you. So the big question that students have is, what is the right residence style for me? Well, this answer really varies depending on what each student wants. All the buildings have various elements that make them so unique and special. For DCC, I do have a small bias as I currently live here, but the view outside of the window truly gives you the downtown Toronto scenery, especially at night with all the beautiful lights and buildings. It's honestly so mesmerizing. I could look outside the windows for days. For ILC, it has room styles that allow more privacy in regards to bathrooms and personal space. So if you're someone who likes their own personal space, then I would say this would be a good option for you. If you're someone who's really looking for a sense of community, Pitman Hall is the building for you as it's home to one of the largest numbers of students. So moving on to the next slide, we're gonna talk a little bit about the comparison between the different residence buildings. So we're gonna bring back all of the information together to summarize these 3 residences together. Going through each of the rows, for the bedroom, most of the styles include a single occupancy. So you'll have your own bedroom and you'll either share an apartment together or share a washroom in the hallway as common examples. If we look at Pitman Hall, if you're living in a single or double, you'll have a shared washroom. If you're living in a paired or apartment style, you'll have a shared suite washroom between the people living within the apartment styled rooms. ILC is the only building out of all the residence buildings that have their own private bathrooms. So if you're someone who wants a private bathroom, then ILC single style is the room that you'd consider when applying to residence. For DCC, due to the apartment style suites, you'll have a shared suite washroom that is shared between you and the other apartment residents. The meal plan is mandatory for all 3 of the residence buildings. And in all of the residence buildings, students will have access to Wi-Fi through their laptops, phones, or any other electronic devices. Lastly, the agreement lengths for all of these buildings are 8 months long in terms and conditions. So moving on to the meal plans. So we're gonna go a little more, going into a little more detail about the meal plans. The 3 main residence buildings, DCC, ILC, and Pitman, require students to purchase a meal plan. The typical meal plan is either a 5-day meal plan, Monday to Friday, or a 7-day meal plan, which is from Monday to Sunday. If you are thinking about staying on residence throughout the week, the 7-day meal plan might be more suitable for you. But if you often visit home or plan to, then the 5-day meal plan might be a better option. So there is one other style of meal plans for any students living in the Pitman apartment styled rooms, and this is a declining balance meal plan. So the required meal plan for this room style is a $1,000 declining balance. And for all other students on residence, the required meal plan is between the 5-day and the 7-day meal plan. And these meal plans are loaded onto your Ryerson 1 card. So when you enter the cafeteria, you will need to swipe it. So before COVID, the way that the cafeterias worked was in the style of an all-you-can-eat buffet. You would be able to enter the cafeteria as much as you'd want and wish, and then exit the cafeteria when you're done. The only thing is that you would not be able to bring food outside. But due to COVID-19, there's a new way that Ryerson has approached the delivery of meal plans. Students were given a token upon their arrival to residence, and this token can be exchanged in the cafeteria for a reusable Aussie container, which stores their food. They're then able to take the container filled with food outside of the cafeteria to their own rooms or any other destinations of their choosing. Students would then need to bring the containers back in exchange for another token, and the containers are cleaned very thoroughly. So there's another component of the meal plan called Flex Dollars. These can go towards any other eateries on campus for students to purchase meals or beverages. If there are any students with dietary restrictions, our food service teams are open to accommodating students. So if that's something that you'd wish to arrange, then feel free to get in touch with the food service teams before the school year starts so that they can help accommodate that. So next slide, please. So the information given in the next few slides are really important to have for the application process. So be sure to have a pen and paper handy or somewhere you could store all of this information like your phone. I'll give you guys a few seconds. All right. So here's where we get into more of the technical aspects of actually applying for residence. The application for residence will be open in January of 2021, and what is required from you is a full or conditional offer of admission to Ryerson University. Once you have that, you're able to apply for residence. You'll be using our eRes live portal to complete your application. There are links to this that can be found on our website at ryerson.ca/housing. One quick note to add is that if you're opening the eRes portal, to make sure that it is Ryerson University's eRes portal, as various other universities also use this portal. After you've found the website, you'll activate your account and then complete the application and pay the non-refundable application fee of $50 using online banking. The application deadline is to be determined, but will be around mid-2021, more details to come. I'm assuming that a lot of you guys will be incoming first years, so all first years that apply up to the deadline date will be considered as on-time applicants. And what that means is that you are top priority for placement in the residence buildings. You are still able to apply after the deadline date, but you will be placed lower on the list and at a point of first come, first served basis. For the on-time applicants, there are a few other factors that are looked at, but one thing to note is that you are not prioritized based on your grades in order to give everyone equal opportunities to live in these spaces. A factor that is looked at is the year in which you are in. First year students will be top priority. Another factor is your distance from Ryerson, meaning that the further away you are from campus, the higher priority you'll be. The first round of offers for residents are often sent out in June, so be sure to look out for that. There are multiple rounds of offers, so if you don't receive an offer the first round, don't worry, as there's multiple ones that are sent throughout the summer, as the ultimate goal is to get as many people into residence as possible. So next slide, please. Getting into a little more details and specifics of the process. As you can see on the slide, beside the How to Apply title, the link to the Ryerson eRes portal is there. Again, after getting your full or conditional offer at admissions and after paying the application fee, you can find guidelines on how to do that in the link that is under the second statement, where number 2 is. And 3 is that if you want to, you'll want to do your research and review the different building styles and room styles and consider your roommates. So a note about roommates is that there's no specific roommate questionnaire as it's assigned at random. What is taken into account are the gender preferences, so those will be matched. But genuinely, they are assigned at random to allow students to meet new people and integrate into the residence community. But if you do have friends that are also going to Ryerson and you want to live with them, you are able to request a roommate. You'll want to make sure that have all of the same room styles and gender preferences of the group match, and that everyone you wish to live with has filled out an application. To actually activate your eRes account, you'll have to press the green button that is currently circled on the image to the left-hand side. So moving on to room preferences. So during the application process, you'll be asked to rank your room preferences. A few tips for this is that on your application, list as many room styles as you would feel comfortable living in. What you want to do is click on the room choices on the left-hand box as shown on the screen. You will click on the room choices in order, and they are broken down in room style and building. Then they automatically get ranked on the right-hand box. From there, if you want to move around or remove specific choices, you're able to do so by using the green arrows to drag them around and using the X's to remove any room styles that you do not wish to live in. As mentioned before, list as many room styles that you're comfortable living in, but don't list any that you aren't. This is because once you're offered a space, that is your one residence offer. So if you get an offer to a space that you would not wish to live in and want to be reconsidered for a different room style, you'll be asked to submit another application and pay an additional $50 application fee. So it is strongly advised that you really do your research and you're confident in your room style selections so that you can be offered a space where you feel excited and comfortable living in. Next slide, please. So when placing students in spaces, the #1 goal is to place students in spaces where they feel comfortable and most supported. So if you require specific accommodations, regardless of what that may be, it may dictate the style of room that you may need to live in, and that is taken into consideration in the form of a Residence Accessibility Accommodation Request, or a RAR. You'll see this on your eRes application, and it will ask you if you required accommodation. If you select yes, then there will be a link that you can follow to a PDF document for the request form. It is asked that you download this and fill it out. Part of it will be filled out by you yourself, but is asked that the other part is filled out by a healthcare professional, and we ask that you share as much information detail as you feel comfortable sharing so that you can be placed in the best possible room style based on your accessibility requirements. Then it's asked that the healthcare professional sends over the completed form, and typically to the email housing@ryerson.ca, so that it can be kept on file and taken into consideration when placing you in a space. Next slide, please. So residence fees. One of the main questions that students ask about residence is in regards to the fees. So there's no fee schedule for the 2021 to 2022 school year posted quite yet, as fees are typically finalized by the Board of Governors around May, which is when you should see the updated fees. But you are able to see last year's fee schedules at ryerson.ca/housing/fees. future students/fees to gauge an approximate amount, but there's usually a 3 to 5 increase each year. In terms of how payment is made, for the ILC, DCC, and Pitman Hall, there are 4 installments. Aside from your $50 application fee, once you receive an offer, you'll be expected to make your first installment to secure your room. In terms of the installments, they are not just the residence fees, but also other fees that are tied within. These may be the meal plan as an example, or the communication fee that covers the internet. So be mindful of that when thinking about installments. The 4 installments are spread out throughout the academic year. So moving on to important dates, which is the next slide. There are no finalized dates yet for this for the 2021-2022 academic school year in terms of residence, but you can find the approximate timeline for these on the screen. The application will be opening late December, and the application deadline would be around early 2021, meaning that this would be the period of time in which you would have already submitted your application and paid your $50 application fee deposit. After all of that is complete, you will wait a few weeks for the first round of residence offers to be sent out. First installments are due once you've received your offer, and that will be vital in terms, again, of securing your room for the upcoming school year. Move-in dates are often really busy as the buildings are located in the heart of downtown Toronto, so there is a really coordinated approach for students. Closer to the move-in day, students will receive an email with a more detailed package about the specifics of move-in day. This year's move-in day was a little different, which I'll talk more about in the next slide in a second. But once you've moved in, orientation week will run the first week of September, where you'll be able to participate in a variety of activities and meet a bunch of people. Then classes will begin. So the last thing to mention is the mid-year break, where residents will be closed during the winter break. ILC is exempted from this. So if you're somebody that needs to stay during the midwinter break, it is highly encouraged that you consider ILC as your top preference. In the application form, it does ask if you need to stay during the period of time, and there will be a separate application process during the school year to finalize those decisions. So moving on into more of the COVID-19 precautions. So residence has changed based off of this. Move-in day was a little more different than how it usually is. So the actual move-in days were stretched into 2 days, where students were given a specific move-in day and time, and were only allowed 2 individuals as supporters to help move their belongings into their rooms. These were 1-hour blocks where students were given the space and time to safely move in. There are currently no outside guests allowed in the residence buildings, and only residents have access to their respective buildings. There have also been cuts to the number of residents residing in specific buildings. The common areas have strict COVID-19 protocols that must be followed by all residents entering the space. There have also been an emphasis on individual support to provide students and residents with the support that they need to succeed and feel comfortable and safe. As well, there are still a variety of residence life events and programs that have been moved to an online platform to keep the community environment that students wish to experience. Next slide, please. So the residence buildings have been reduced to a 50% capacity with a 1-to-1 ratio of resident and bathroom, meaning that there's currently no shared spaces for students within room styles other than the DCC 4-person apartment styles, which have 2 bathrooms. There are approximately 350 students living on campus for the fall 2020 semester, compared to the normal amount of over 1,000 students, to ensure the safety of all students and staff. Ryerson also requires all students and supporters before move-in day to complete a COVID-19 self-assessment to ensure safe and successful move-ins. If there was anyone who did experience symptoms waiting for test results or possibly were exposed to COVID-19, their move-in days were delayed or they were required to self-isolate. Residents will continue to work with stakeholders to ensure that any changes to our residence capacity are in line with public health regulations. Next slide, please. Common spaces. So within the common spaces in the buildings, there is a hand sanitizer that is accessible in high traffic areas, such as the waiting spaces for the elevator as an example. There are also sanitizer wipe dispensers in the common spaces around the residence buildings, such as the lounges, laundry rooms, and near the elevators. The common spaces are also cleaned twice daily by staff. There are also capacity limits for all of the common spaces in residence, an example being the capacity limit of 2 individuals per elevator in all of the res buildings. There's also a mandatory face covering policy for all of campus, including residents. Moving on to the next slide, please. So individual supports. So going into a little more detail about the individual supports for students in residence, there are a variety of ways that you can access support. Some of these include a 24/7 COVID-19 hotline and self-isolation protocols in place. There are the modified food services in Pitman Hall with the Odyssey containers and tokens. Students are able to connect virtually with their resident advisors and academic typically through Zoom or Google Meet. There are also still limited offerings of events that are optional and within public health complaints that are in person. So moving on to the next slide. The 24/7 COVID hotline is staffed by the professional health professional team, and there are food services supports for all students that are self-isolated, including meal plan delivery. Students will also have access to professional staff for support, and temporary relocation is accessible if needed or applicable. Next slide, please. These expectations that are regarded and related to living residents will be listed in the 2021 to 2022 residence contract. It will outline your rights and responsibilities to the health and well-being in regards to COVID-19, personal and community safety, and facility management. Next slide, please. So although residence life does look a little different this academic year, the community and relationships built within residence are still as strong as ever. I've made connections with various other students within my program and other programs in a safe manner in ways that I would not have if I was not living in residence. Whether it was social distancing in Kerr Hall or having dinner social distance in Pitman Quad, I've made some memories with amazing people that I will never forget. Yeah, so that is kind of the end of the presentation portion. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the Q&A or contact us at housing@ryerson.ca or our phone number on Twitter or Facebook. Thank you.
All right, thank you to Alice, Emma, and Ella for providing us with more information about our Ryerson residences. Now, just before we wrap up, I do know in our Q&A, we did mark a few questions that we were going to address live. So I'm just going to go through them really quickly right now. One of the questions we received was, can you request to live with someone in a double room? So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the how you can request roommates, what that process looks like. So you can do so through the eRes app. So you can request your roommates by creating a roommate group within the app. So this will become available to you after you all submit your application. So that is the process of how you can choose your roommates if you have some people in mind already. And the next two questions were about internet access in the residences. One of them was about, is there Wi-Fi available? Do you have to pay for that on your own? So yes, our residences do provide Wi-Fi. It is the campus Wi-Fi. So once you are a Ryerson student, you will receive your Ryerson login, and that is what you will use to access our campus Wi-Fi. What is the app called again? Is the eRes app. So this can be found on our housing website. As mentioned in the presentation, when you start your residence application, you do need an offer of admission. So once you receive an offer from Ryerson, you're eligible to start your residence application through the eRes application portal. And finally, will the full recording be sent to you? It won't be sent to you directly. However, we will be posting all the sessions for this virtual open house on our Ryerson at Home website. So this can be found kind of where you actually registered. But if you Google Ryerson at Home, it should be one of the first links available to you. All right. So if you do have any more questions, please keep them coming. We're going to be on until the top of the hour. All right. Oh, another question I just received. Where can I reach? Oh, if you are an international student and you're thinking of joining us here at Ryerson University, you can contact our international enrollment office by email at international@ryerson.ca. And actually, I will type that in for you just so you have it in text form as well. All right, everyone. We're going to now be shutting down our audio and video. So you're not going to be able to see or hear us, but again, we are going to be here behind the scenes here until the end of the hour to answer all of your questions. So please feel free to continue submitting your questions until then. So I encourage you to also take note of any answers that you may have received because once we shut down the webinar, you're going to lose a record of that too. So on behalf of Ryerson University, all of our presenters and everyone here on the back end, thank you once again for joining us today, and we hope to see you in our other sessions later this week. Bye for now.